Well, we're starting right now, folks, if you'll settle down. Hello!
Hi.
And welcome to the 2015 Speech and Debate Class versus Class Big Debate. Our question for today is, can the government legislate morality? In asking this question, we consider, does the government have the right and authority to legislate private or moral behaviors? Can the government do so effectively? Is this in the best interest of the people? Arguing for the affirmative, yes, the government can and should legislate morality, my Period 7 Speech and Debate class. Arguing for the negative, no, the government should not legislate morality, my Period 2 Speech and Debate class. Our audience today consists of both students and adult judges. Students should each have a feedback sheet that breaks down our debate into 4 sections. The first 2 sections consist of each team's constructive arguments and the opposing team's cross-examination. Each constructive argument section is limited to 8 minutes, and each cross-examination section is limited to 4 minutes. After 2 rounds in this style, we'll take a short break. During this time, I encourage judges and student audience members to submit questions that will challenge either or both teams. I will select 2 questions to be posed to each team and 2 final questions to be posed equally to both teams. Following that, we will hear closing arguments. The winning team will be chosen by a combination of the judges' scoring rubrics and the audience feedback forms. Results will be announced this week in class and via school email. With that, allow me to introduce our judges. We have a modified list of judges today. We have our Vice Principal, Ms. Jody Dunstan. From the local Rotary Club, we have Ms. Vanessa Casari.
Morning.
We have our Guidance Counselor, Ms. Nicole Mitchell. We may be encountering Ms. Robin Parker, also from the Rotary Club. And running late, as always, is my longtime friend and professional actor, Kenneth Vantry, who might peek through the curtain at any minute. And with that in mind, let me give these additional judges' rubrics to Ms. Dunstan. I'll put them on your chair so you can give them to any additional judges. All right, we will begin with the first affirmative constructive, which will decorum, ladies and gentlemen, decorum. It's part of the grading rubric. Which will be delivered in absentia, meaning they're not here, and presented from pre-recorded audio thanks to Megan's laptop. And these speeches, who's first, Gavin or Anthony?
Yes, Gavin Leary is first.
Gavin Leary, followed by Anthony Mitchell. They're taking the AP Gov test right now, so we have pre-recorded their speeches. Turn it around.
When speaking of morality, it is impossible not to involve human civilization. Take this debate topic for example. Can the government legislate morality? Thus involving the piece of human civilization being government. But this is not a question of whether the government can legislate morality. This is a debate over whether the government should be able to legislate morality. The government should be able to legislate morality not only for the sake of the body it is governing, but also for the sake of mankind, because morality is essential to human civilization. When the lack of morality takes hold of the civilization will inevitably fail. Take the ancient Greek Empire, for example, built not only on a polytheistic belief, but also on a strict moral code. As social classes began to form, however, more conflicts arose between them. More conflict caused morality within the empire to evaporate, and eventually the empire itself would follow suit. What followed soon after that was the Roman Empire, who would also end up suffering a similar fate. The Romans were built on a society where the citizens possessed high morals. The primary beliefs of the Romans were honesty, discipline, and frugality. As the empire strengthened and more wealth poured into the hands of the people, they became greedy for more, and morals were thrown out of the window. As morals lessened and greed grew among the city, civil wars broke out, eventually tearing the empire to shreds due to a lack of moral values. Morals are still necessary in civilization. analytical psychology, Carl Jung writes that nations, and in particular the United States, were founded on the idea of the Golden Rule guiding them. The Golden Rule, of course, being do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Or in simpler words, treat others the way you would want to be treated. So even despite having different views on what was right and wrong, when creating our country, it all came back to how the founding fathers would have wanted themselves to be treated if they were the working class. Morality is what continues to hold the United States together. Over the years, morality has been disputed, but the U.S. has stayed intact. Like the lack of moral values that resulted from a class system being formed in ancient Greece, causing civil war and the breakdown of the empire, the United States had a similar instance themselves. Slavery in the mid-1800s was a highly controversial topic that eventually led to a civil war between the northern United States and the southern Confederate States. The war was over a dispute of morality, whether or not slavery was right or wrong. The lack of morals brought upon by slavery caused a civil war and threatened a breakdown of the entire United States, just like the class system did to Greece. However, America was able to regain its morals with the abolishing of slavery, and has continued to grow into the nation we live in today. Some of the great empires in history have built their ruling around morals. We have seen how a lack of morals can result in detrimental consequences to a nation's lifespan. In Greece and Rome, we saw how the empires evaporated when morals were thrown away, and in the USA, we saw how close the nation came to its breaking point when its morals were tested. Only the repairing of its moral ideas kept the country growing. In order for nations like these to exist or have existed, morals must be present in the makeup of their societies. Human civilization depends on morality for survival. Morals, however, do not appear themselves. There must be a body enforcing the ideas of these moral values. A body that does not lose control in situations where morals are questioned, but instead repairs them. Government and morality go together towards what keeps civilizations alive.
As a nation, we fought for our liberty and freedom. After the successful fight for our liberation, Thomas Jefferson was selected to write the first draft of the Declaration of Independence. During this time, he was quoted as saying, quote, "The purpose of government is to enable the people of a nation to live in safety and happiness. Government exists for the interests of the governed and for the governed. The government was founded as a moral structure, so like the holding umbrella. Tomorrow, holding umbrella is the people. Supporting the government, like the candidate, protects the people. This is a kind of symbiosis or system where both parties have a right to advantage of it. We as a people deserve the safety of the government, as we provide the government on our taxes, employment of our population, and strengthen numbers within armed forces, which in turn protects the government. The government protects our own morality through municipalities, such as giving states there are options based on the people's majority opinion on what laws to create, eradicate, or debate to. This is how the government governs morality. This way is how they legislate for the people, not against them. The government protects us from ourselves within the laws that they create. They create legislation that disallows discrimination of race, gender, or age. They create legislation to ensure the safety of others and to allow the use of any means necessary to create a safe environment. Laws protect our general safety and ensure our right as citizens against abuses by other people, by organizations, by the government itself. We have laws to help provide for our general safety. Laws are just a set of rules to ensure the safe and harmless interaction of society. Whether or not it is believed that laws align with morality, laws have everything to do with the government protecting the people's personal sense of moral values. There is not a single straight set of morals within a nation. It is a diverse amount of opinions and moralities living together. The government protects us by allowing the states to decide morality by the majority of the people in court rulings, and they create national laws to protect that which is considered to have no moral value within it, such as parking, driving, and common safety laws. The government should be required to protect the right of every citizen. The interest of the government seems to prevail, and that is not what the framers, such as Thomas Jefferson, wanted. If we let this go on, the government and the economy will fail. As an example, with taxes, the government must provide protection if they would like to receive the steady income of taxes they do on a yearly basis. Things such as big business will not hire or protect the American worker, then in turn will not pay taxes, which will be able to pay them. Any other work, the average American cannot pay taxes and the government will lose. Primary a role of the state is to protect its citizens. Our Constitution guarantees both the right to life and the right to secure, provided that, quote, every person has the right to life, and that a person shall be deprived of life intentionally except to the extent authorized by the Constitution or other written law. The Constitution also provides that every person has the right not to be, quote, subjected to any form of violence, including public or private sources, unquote. It is my belief that it is the government's duty to protect its citizens, in all which citizens need protection. Thank you.
Next, we have the negative team cross-examining the affirmative team based on the opening statement. We have someone standing in for Gavin and Anthony, who will answer to this well. Decide as you go, I guess. You have 4 minutes. Begin.
What determines morality? Who determines morality?
The American society.
We can further explore that.
Well, morality is based upon feelings and individual acts.
Okay, I find it. Is it not true that everyone has different rights, determines right and wrong different? Is it not true that everyone determines right and wrong different?
Once you're in the society conforms to one idea, and that's how society conforms.
Your second speaker's mere argument was saying that these laws protect our general safety, but yet you have thousands of people dying every day from these. You have thousands of people dying every day, and from these law enforcement officers.
But think about what if we did have those laws, how much worse they would be, and how many more people would be dying.
The speaker was the first speaker talking about how ancient civilizations were born.
Sir, you're going to have to be a lot louder.
Back in slavery times, so morals are subjective and they change over time. So how can we determine our current morals from those that were probably right so today?
The more we learn from our mistakes, the more we will develop and evolve and
And also, when this was just talking about the Constitution and founding fathers, we already know this is but we see today that most people disown the citizens don't believe in those Christian values today. So how
our founding fathers were actually not Christian. Most of them were philosophers, so they typically had an atheist view, so they had an open mind. And most of the laws that we have were based on world theaters of the British era.
Your speaker, Gavin. Isn't it ironic that Carl Jung also spoke about levels of abstraction? The upwards progression of humanity as symbolized by civilization would reflect differentiated views of life and human interactions. He also said more on stage. Carl Jung talks about levels of abstraction, the upwards progression of humanity as symbolized by civilization.
And that's time to cross-examine. All right, next we will have the first negative constructive, where our negative team will argue that the government should not legislate morality. Let me remind both teams that you cannot sway your audience if you don't speak to them loudly and clearly. When answering cross-exam, answer to the audience because they are your judges. Okay? So let's hear from the negative team.
The legislation of morality can be and often is based on moral beliefs contained in the Bible and other religious documents. So what about all our religious freedom? We all have a different sense of ethical responsibility related to our own personal moral values. My personal ethnic rules may not be the same as yours. So we can't and shouldn't make rules that people have different views on. Citizens disagree on the definition of right and wrong. Legislating morality should be removed as a criticism. SeanComnell.com says that governments are not above morality. They are not given the privilege of using the sword to punish all immorality. As it is wrong for an individual to murder a man, it's wrong for a government to murder a man. As it is wrong for an individual to torture someone, it's wrong for a government to torture someone. If we were to truly support legislation of morality, we would support punishing and or restriction sins such as pride or irrationality. We'd all be guilty and would all be in prison. James Bogart from the Future Freedom Foundation explains, government regulations are not mere expressions of codified benevolence, which is an act of kindness. To regulate means to use or threaten force to subordinate private behavior to governmental commands. Personal moral behavior is harder to define as legal behavior. There are only some basic principles of behavior upon which we all can agree on. The attempts to legislate morality are ineffective and often cruel. Abortion may or may not be immoral, but many believe it is a woman's right. There's no urgent or compelling non-religious reason to prohibit abortion, and no one should impose their religious beliefs on others. You are your own person, and you bring your own unique perspective to the countless ethical problems. Society can legislate what they want, but your moral standards should be above the rest. Republican Amber Athey made this argument. The government cannot and should not legislate human ethics, for not only is this hypocritical on behalf of conservatives, but is a direct infringement on freedom. Freedom plays into our religious freedom and also our freedom of speech.
The question here is the government good at legislating morality? No. Morality is defined as what someone thinks is right versus what they think is wrong. The government's rules and regulations do not match up to everyone's views on what they think is right versus what they think is wrong. Our morality is based on the Constitution, based on our founding fathers. Back then, these rules were appropriate for society because everyone believed in the same things and had the same views. In present society, everyone is unique. They do, say, and think what they want. However, it is nearly impossible to create such rules that affect everyone the same. If the government issues this morality, how come they don't have to follow it themselves? As we speak, police officers all over are performing police brutality on people. However, we are not allowed to do so ourselves. Our morality laws seem to help only those with the views of our old, outdated founding fathers and those with people with authority. Most of our moral laws impose on one of our main rights, freedom of speech. We can say, do, protest, and express themselves as they please. Gay marriage has been one of the oldest cases of unfair morality. Because our fathers were Christians, they believed in no gay marriage. However, times have changed and more people are open to the idea. Because one of our basic human rights is freedom of expression, we have the right to marry or openly love anyone we desire. However, by not allowing a gay couple to get married infringes on that right.
All laws are founded on someone's moral views. So of course the government can legislate morality, but it isn't always 100% effective. It isn't just to force moral beliefs on Americans when our country is so diverse. There are a lot of silly laws that some people don't take seriously. For example, in Wyoming, it is illegal to take pictures of rabbits in the month of June. The government isn't checking for every person in Wyoming in the month of June to assure that nobody is taking pictures of rabbits. There are also laws that are non-beneficial and impossible for the government to always control, such as the drinking law. Why we have underage drinking and underage drinkers everywhere. Not only is legislative morality ineffective, but the government does not always follow the laws that they enforce on us. It is illegal for us to murder each other, but the government punishes some citizens with the death penalty. Although the government cannot legislate morality, although the government can legislate morality, it is ineffective and unjust.
All right, cross a bit further. Time begins now, cross-examine. Clock is ticking.
How can you say abortion should be allowed when it's illegal to kill anyone else? Like that's an adult. It's illegal to kill an adult or a child, but it's not illegal to kill an infant who only one has done anything.
Question that was asked to us is who defines morality? I'm going to answer the same question. Who defines morality?
No one defines it. The fact that it can't be defined means that it's just not
Everyone, nobody defines right or wrong.
There's no one, okay, that's true that no one, that people have different ideas of right and wrong, but you're saying that nobody defines morality. Is that what you're saying? But however, does that mean that in our society we don't have a standard of morality?
We do have a standard, but the thing is, not everyone upholds it or believes it. But if she, like I do, if they think they can kill people, and it is justified to them, but to us it's not.
Okay, but in our society, we have documents like the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and we have amendments added over time, and they have been based in what is morality, and in our country, it's what we use, and have used since the beginning of the
Where in
foundation
the
of our country.
Constitution does it say that the government, it is okay for the government to murder someone?
That is a stance in
Could
a
you
moral
tell me
stance.
where-
That is one side
Can you
of a
tell me
moral
where it
argument.
say this?
That's a side to a moral argument.
Can I ask what amendments you're
every law because they're all based, they're all based in morality and have moral points.
Okay, so in the First Amendment, does it say that the government should?
That is one side of a moral issue.
Yes. So, what is an example of an amendment that legislates morality?
Any amendment,
Could you
Can you
please
please
say?
state an example?
any amendment that abolishes slavery. That what it says is a moral issue. Does that mean that nobody should legislate morality, including all of the laws that we have? Should they all be eradicated and should we just have an anarchy? So if everyone's idea of right is wrong, what is the basis? What is
Alright.
the standard?
Time's up for cross-exam. Negative team, please remember that it's their turn to cross-exam you, and not your turn to cross-examine them. Alright? Debate decorum, if you please. Affirmative team, please remember to retain control of your cross-exam session. And now, with the second constructive affirmative, the affirmative team.
Morality cannot be defined by anything. It is impossible to structure a set of basic moral values on tastes and personal opinions. What may be immoral to you may be immoral to someone else. For example, imagine a starving family living on the streets, desperate for food. The family then stumbles upon a very wealthy family, and the starving family decides to steal the wealthy family. In response, the wealthy family then calls the police. In the eyes of some, it is considered morally right for the family to steal because they were hungry. And in the eyes of others, it seems morally right for the wealthy family to call the police because they were stolen from. Morals cannot be based on opinions because it is impossible to have a widespread consensus on what is right and what is wrong. The government can and should legislate morality because our society cannot function on an arbitrary set of morals. Theodore Roosevelt once said, to educate a person in the mind, but not in the morals, is to educate a menace to society. One cannot teach a person how to feel about society. One cannot force a person to behave or agree with society. However, one can teach a person the moral guidelines of society. Moral feelings are the social skills that allow us to interact and comply with other human beings. However, when objective versus subjective morals are being questioned, it becomes difficult to say which is right and which is wrong. Morals are viewed as a very personal matter, which is why some tend to agree with the notion that government should legislate morality. Still, there are moral-based laws that every person can agree with. From manslaughter to embezzlement and every law in between, they have been based on moral judgments that is agreed by a majority of the population. Take incest, for example. The act is legal in 24 states and is considered illegal under certain circumstances in 7 states. In the remaining states, it is completely legal. Incest, even consensual incest between 2 adults, is considered immoral because reproducing with a close relative increases the chances of passing on recessive genes, which can lead to birth defects such as disorders in babies, like increased risk of infertility, birth defects like cleft palates, heart conditions, facial asymmetry, low growth rate, and neonatal mortality. Reproduction between close relatives can be potentially harmful and even fatal to babies and children. But despite all that, it is still legal in some parts of the country. If the government had the power to legislate morality, practices like incest would not exist. The purpose of making rules and laws is to provide punishment to wrongdoers, resolve disputes, and promote the common law. It is the government's job to keep us safe from immoral and cruel actions. Therefore, the government should have every right to legislate morality.
Morality is a distinction between right and wrong. All laws declare one behavior right and one behavior wrong, which is the very definition of morality. Without morality in the world, there would be chaos everywhere. people who commit crimes and not care for their mistakes. According to dictionary.com, a sociopath is a person with psychopathic personality whose behavior is antisocial, often criminal, and who lacks a sense of moral responsibility or social conscience. Generally, a psychopath lacks morality while committing a crime, so they are breaking the law while having no sense of moral responsibility. There would be guilty rapes on the street because there would not be a law saying rape is wrong. In our society, we come across a strong connection between law and morality. By having laws, it defines the difference between what is legal and what is illegal. Laws channel our behavior through the threat of consequences if we disobey the law. Things that are legal and illegal come from the values of our founding fathers. According to Law versus Morality, as Regulators of Conduct by Stephen Chabelle, morality involves incentives. Bad acts may result in guilt and disprobation, and good acts may result in virtuous feelings and praise. The government legislates morality through laws without attempting to do so, such as murder or rape. They are immoral acts. Because there are moral rules that show these deeds are wrong, the government takes the value of the issue and turns it into a law, therefore legislating morality. Laws are simply put into place to govern people's moral behaviors. The Encyclopedia Britannica states that human civilization is not possible without law and morality. For example, public nudity is illegal. The reason why it is illegal is because it is very difficult to ignore. According to Joel Fenberg's philosophy, indecent exposure has the ability to demand our attention. It is morally wrong because it grabs the attention of younger children and it is very inappropriate. Also, murder is illegal and morally wrong. If any type of killing became legal, it would therefore, by definition, not be murder. Not only is it a moral issue, but it would become a world issue if it became legal. Our world population would decrease because it would be allowed. All laws are moral laws.
Cross-examine. Time begins now.
You said all laws are moral laws. So, number of things give consequences for all laws that are looked at. They're not really legislative around the consequences, which is stop. So it's not like they don't have the laws, it's just the consequences stop.
All actions have consequences, whether you commit the crime or not. Either way, you have a consequence. The consequence of committing a crime is getting in trouble for it. The consequence of not committing a crime is living your life as normal.
One of your groups said that increasing morality increases crime and violence. Well, let's take the anti-gun movement as an example. Citizens of America believe that passing a law that demands for anti-guns will lessen crime and violence. However, this is false. There is no relation between gun ownership and violent crime. A Harvard study on violent crime shows a negative correlation between the two. As gun ownership increases, murder and suicide decreases. A statistics found by two criminologists states that the nations with the most strict anti-gun laws have significantly higher murder rates than those who do not. Their study found that 9 European nations with the lowest percentage of gun ownership, which is about 5,000 guns per 100,000 populations, have combined to a total rate 3 times higher than the 9 nations with the highest number of gun ownership. For example, Norway has the highest percentage of gun ownership in Europe. However, portrays the lowest murder rate compared to Holland, who has the lowest gun controls, but yet have the lowest murder rate.
Correlation does not cause association. So just because something can be compared to something doesn't mean it's the reason for it.
Who is the government to tell us what to do?
Government is always working on everything that we legislate what it knows right now. This is the reason we have schools based upon the government.
Government is also also, Megan said that morality cannot be defined that the government morality is only a symbol.
Before I begin, I would like to acknowledge that Megan did say morality cannot be defined, implying that the government's morality is only a synopsis of everyone's moral views. Your team also stated that it is hard to say what is right and wrong. However, who defines whether something is right or wrong? For example, incest. Who defines whether it is moral or immoral? Everyone's moral beliefs are based on the teaching of our ancestors and cultural influence. America, a melting pot if you would, a mixture of different views and ideas based on a biased moral code. So if murder is immoral, how can the government do murder?
The government cannot murder. For instance, all the police officers that did commit those crimes, they are being prosecuted for the crimes that they committed while they were in the police uniform. And you don't have to be a police officer not to murder.
Capital punishment is murder. The government murders the criminal.
No, it's a punishment. It's a punishment.
Time. All right. The final constructive argument from the negative team. 8 minutes begins now.
The question is, can the government legislate morality? Of course they can write laws about moral issues, but are these laws fair? Let's be honest. Anybody can do anything. The true question is, does legislating morality work? The government tried to legislate morality with prohibition, and we all know how that turned out. The 18th Amendment put a ban on the sale of alcohol. This ban brought on terrible things. One of these things being the mafia. The truth is people in the government aren't qualified to legislate morality when it comes to murder. The government is hypocritical. It is okay and just for the government to give the death penalty to someone who is a murderer or serial killer, but it would be unjust for the murderer. It would be unjust for me to murder someone that did harm unto me. Listen, I'm not here to say that murder is right, but is murder fully wrong? Murder is considered as an immoral act. Why is it considered as an immoral act if a living object's true instinct is to kill? There is a saying, kill or be killed. So who can actually tell us what is moral or immoral? Murder is a natural thing. People kill when they are enraged or when they feel a lot of different emotions all at once. Animals murder and kill for survival. Think about Darwinism and the survival of the fittest. A person's moral code can be different from one another's. The government follows the laws that they have what they believe is right. But what about the people think is right? The government shouldn't legislate morality because morals are subjective. Morals change, and so do people's beliefs.
Morality is subjective. Every person has different views concerning morality. What one person thinks is moral may not be what another person thinks is moral. The government cannot decide what is moral and what is immoral when every person has different beliefs. The government can legislate morality, meaning they are capable of making laws that concern morality. However, they should not legislate morality. Morality is a subject that does not involve objectivity. If the government is to remain objective, morality should not be involved. When morality is brought into the question, the government is incapable of pleasing everyone. This is because everyone's morals are different. As with the subject of murder, the government should not be allowed to make laws concerning murder because murder is subjective. One person may think that murder is moral, but another person may think that it's not. Issues such as murder should be taken care of by the people, not the government. Let me clarify. Letting the government do something that the people can do is not any better than the government taking action. Back when there was no government, a group of people would hunt a killer down and kill the killer themselves. Now, the government kills the murderers. This is not any better. The killing is public and done by the authorities. The point is, morality can be legislated by the people themselves, not Congress. By legislating morality, Congress goes against the religion of other people. There have been court cases such as the McCollum versus Board of Education, where the judicial court has ruled religion in school unconstitutional because it went against the First Amendment. However, the religious classes were voluntary and no one was forced to convert. Because the court ruled this unconstitutional, it took away the rights of those who wanted to practice their religion. Every American is entitled to his own religious beliefs, but the government violates that right. But legislating subjects such as abortion, the government is asking for a civil war. Abortion is such a topic in which no government party can be objective. The conservatives believe that abortion is murder. The liberals believe that abortion is for the mother to decide. Why would the government dip its feet into the subject of it knows that not everyone is objective concerning abortion? The government is not qualified to legislate morality. The American population has too many subjective views for the government to succeed in legislating morality. The government cannot satisfy everyone. If it were to remain objective, then no one would object to its laws. In actuality, the government is great at making laws that make one's eyebrows go up. In Wyoming, it is illegal to take a picture of a rabbit from January to April without an official permit. How is this law objective at all? Never mind objectivity. How is the law even rational? Laws are meant to be rational and objective. Laws are not to be eye-raising such as this law.
Cross-exam, 4 minutes. Starts now.
So, we heard that your team said that the government isn't qualified to punish people. So, if that's true, who's going to punish us? And if they don't do anything about what's going on in the world, who will? Superman? Batman? I mean, even those people act on their moral beliefs. So, shouldn't the government be legislating based on morality? And then you also said kill or be killed is something that, is said in the world. But people use that for animals and barbarians. And animals and barbarians don't go to schools, they don't live in societies, they don't have neighbors. If you went with kill or be killed and used that in today's society, there would be no one alive. So, yeah. I don't know, that's what I got. Go ahead.
So, you guys said that you all brought up the amendment on prohibition, but I'm here to ask, does the government not has they not reinterpreted the Constitution to better follow the updated moral standards of our current constituents? Our government takes the beliefs of all of our people and they put it into, they need to make sure that we follow the moral guidelines of everybody in our salad. Yeah, I'm saying it's not a melting pot, it would be a melting salad, because if it was a melting pot, everybody's moral beliefs would actually coincide with one another. It's a salad because it's kind of thrown together in a bowl. Now the question back to is, does the government not reinterpret the amendments to update these moral standards?
Not really. Not really, because everyone, he said.
Does the government not reinterpret the constitutional laws to better follow everybody's updated moral standards?
Not really, because I have different.
We're on a time-based situation, so I'm going to move on to the next question. States do have state laws. Then why do these people following their moral guidelines in these states not abide to follow these moral guidelines? So, saying that the government isn't able to keep up with all the things that everybody's trying to give to them. So how come if states have the power to give their branch of constituents the ability to change the laws like that? Why don't they give it to their
Well, technically, they don't know everyone's beliefs, but they can't keep track of all of us, so everyone still has those different beliefs.
So I'm going to give it.
Really quick, I heard you guys talk about incest, and this past Father's Day, for someone whose name should not be mentioned, tweeted Happy Father's Day, and as they call it in their family, Happy Brother's Day-in-law. As he previously expressed, he's my father married to my sister, and putting this convoluted family aside and asking more simple questions, should there be laws against incest? There should be rules against this, and if you agree that laws against incest on any kind of level is wrong, that means you agree that morality can and must be legislated.
I'm sorry, but Megan was the one who brought up incest, and she was the one that stated incest is immoral. And rules are rules.
Time. We will take a short break, let's say 4 minutes. During that time, please, I am looking for my class to behave themselves while I speak. I'm also looking for questions from the audience and judges. Anything you weren't able to hear or understand, or new questions you have to challenge one or both sides. I need 6 questions when we return from break, and that's how we will begin the second half. If you need a bathroom break, now's the time. So the way the question section will work is as follows. I pose a question to a side, they get 1 minute to respond, and then the opposing team will have 30 seconds to counter. So our first question for the affirmative team. In the process of legislating morality, how does one differentiate between morality and preference? You have 1 minute. Go.
Carrie, so 1 minute to speak to you or 1 minute to converse about?
You have 1 minute to answer. I will repeat the question for the benefit of the audience. In the process of legislating morality, how does one differentiate between morality and preference? Stand up and speak to the audience.
We use the standard of morality that our Constitution uses for legislation.
You have 30 seconds. All right, we're going to kick it over to the other team. You have 30 seconds. Begin.
You can't because it's people's own opinion. Our Constitution is also biased. You have the conservatives and the liberals who believe in universal. Our Constitution is biased. You can't because it's people's own opinions.
All right, question 2 for the negative team. If the governments objectively require that legislation not be based in a moral code, on what basis should laws be created? You have 1 minute to respond. Now.
Personal views. Because people have no beliefs. So, yeah, they do what's best for them. Darwinism. Because laws that limit moral conduct in society are ineffective and result in more unpleasant actions. So allowing individuals to carry on with their life in the private best of their lives creates a more liberated and freer society.
ask your time is over. You have 10 seconds. Would you like to use your 10 seconds? Okay. Your response, 30 seconds. Ready?
So you're saying we should have a society based off of our own beliefs, but then we live in a society full of bedroom because no one's beliefs are the same. So what we have morality in our laws in order to legislate change and things of that nature. But she wanted to go for our own beliefs. We're going off our own morals, and we're still living in the world chaos because we're doing whatever we want, basically. There's like no limit of what you can and can't do.
All right, time. To the affirmative side. You said that laws adjust over time to accommodate changes in morality. But how do we protect personal liberty, or do we just wait for the government to catch up with the times?
Basically, what it is, the government stands for the people, we the people. So as the government figures out what's right or wrong, it's around the same time that we do. They go off of our judgment. If we riot, they go back and they change their opinions. Maybe, if so. They don't need us to tell them how to run us because they are us. They understand what we want and when we want.
To add to that, we are a nation built off three strong words, and those are we the people. The government doesn't act without initiative from the constituents, so there isn't really any way that it could move on from anything without any help from its constituents.
All right, 30 seconds, begin.
You talk about how the government and the Constitution has to catch up to us. And that is true because how come the majority of the country agrees on gay marriage, but the government has yet to leave it out nationwide?
This is your time. Okay. Final question of the affirmative.
Negative.
The negative. That's the negative over there. You mentioned survival of the fittest. What happens when you are not the fittest in a government without morality? Again.
If you are not the fittest in a society, you learn how to adapt to that society and create a better lifestyle for yourself to prosper.
Also, this also goes along with problems of life, I guess. Survival of the fittest also implies that people have to adapt to the environment. The fittest who are already equipped to survive in that environment. So the non-fit, they learn to adapt to their
Okay, 30 seconds over here. Begin. Seconds. No. Time. All right, to both questions, we'll start by posing to the affirmative. You each have 1 minute to respond. Who ultimately determines morality? From Lydia Haggard. Sorry, if you posed a question and I didn't credit you for it, I apologize. This one's from Lydia Haggard. Who ultimately decides morality? Are there some morals that everyone can agree on? 1 minute.
The government legislates morality because our president is our leader. We appoint him, and he's basically for us. So therefore, we, the people, we're the people who tell the president what to do, basically. And it's not just us. The government has a system of checks and balances. So therefore, anything that gets shown to the president as a new law, everyone has to agree on, or at least 2/3 of the government has to agree on. And the president has overall rule to veto the law if he doesn't like it. So in the end, we ourselves and the government, we legislate morality.
Time. 1 minute.
In my speech earlier, I mentioned how there are only some basic principles of behavior which we can all agree on, and then there are more that we can't.
To reiterate, gay marriage, if we the people believe that gay marriage is right, how come the government has yet to put it in effect or legalize it? Every state.
30 seconds.
Most people in our society today have an idea of what the rules are. They really don't need the government to lead people from those parts down to the right. It's not common sense. Like the government teaches us how to be serious about it.
Time. The final question to both sides. We'll start over here. From Khalil Sinclair, thank you. Please respond to the following prompt. I saved this one for last. The Joker bombs a city, and Batman goes after him. If Batman murders him, then he's just as wrong as the Joker. But if he does nothing, then he's not helping. So in both situations, he'll lose. So in a moral sense, what should he do? 1 minute.
Well, in a fictional series, Batman, he would never kill anyone. So what he would do is tie up the Joker with the cops and let the government, as they should,
Also, in the one movie, after the police are actually after Batman for killing the one cop, so they were going after him for killing him.
And as my opponent, as my teammate said, it's a fictional story, so what does that have to do with Stop. The government is
It's a scenario.
Why is it okay? I'm not saying it is okay for the Joker to kill someone, but why is it okay for the government, in this case, the society of Batman?
Time. 1 minute, begin.
I would like to say that you guys stated that if Batman were to kill Joker, then he would be taken into a process of legal action. Or I'm sorry, if the Joker killed everybody, the Joker would be run through our judicial system. Since the Joker killed all these people, he bombed the city, he is imposed a terrorist, and everybody knows that the highest form of action for a terrorist is, in fact, capital punishment, which you guys said you were against. By turning Joker over into the capital punishment, you are then stating that he is up for trial towards capital punishment. So, under the statement in which Joker goes through our judicial system, he will face that moral action in which you guys stated it was immoral to buy the Constitution. But that's unfortunately how our judicial system works. If you put a terrorist into the system, I'm pretty sure nobody's going to want to breathe on the other side.
Thank you. We now have closing statements. They're limited to 5 minutes. We begin with the affirmative. Yeah, time's starting.
Civilization cannot exist without morality. As Gavin stated in our opening argument, that the ancient Greeks and the ancient Roman civilization failed because they didn't have morals. So what makes you think if we don't have morals that we're not going to fail? This is why the government exists. The government lets us live in peace. The government's job is to protect us. It's written in the preamble. Now, the laws are a set of rules, as you may say, that keep us safe. Society conforms to a certain belief in order for all of us to be happy. And the morals, as you guys stated, morals do change. You are correct, and that's why the government has amendments. The Constitution has amendments. Of course, the 18th Amendment had prohibition, but the 21st Amendment brought it back because of the society's outrage towards it. Laws have moral beliefs. That's exactly why they're so important. Some believe that morals are just common sense. So why doesn't everyone have the same common sense? If you believe that the government should not legislate morality, what's stopping society into just becoming nothing? What's stopping people from killing other people? Because it's common sense to them that they can kill somebody. But in reality, it's not moral. We have standards so we don't live off of kill or be killed. We are not animals. We are civil human beings. We are intelligent. We are better than the animals who kill or be killed. That's how we rise to the top. We're humans. We have the government for a reason, to lead us. That's what the president's job is, as I stated earlier. We appoint the president. The government, which is the president, appoints our laws, and they pass them, along with the checks and balances. Now, the government, as I keep saying, is for the people, by the people. I can't stress that enough, because overall, the government is for us. So, if the government won't legislate morality, who will? So, the government can, does, and should legislate morality. Thank you.
All right, 5 minutes. Negative team. Time starts now.
Issuing morality laws is the way government keeps the world safe. But people who make the laws seem to base the laws on what they believe. Religion plays a big part because most of the laws are based on a Christian belief. Some believe that women should not have abortions, and others believe women should have the choice. The government issues morality for the common people, but justify it for themselves, which is a little selfish because they're people just like us commoners. But they work in the justice system. Murdering people is justified for the government, but it's considered injustice for commoners to kill them. Murder is murder, no matter how you put it. Murder is right, nor is it wrong, nor is it moral or immoral.
Alright. Suppose our argument. Let's go back to the main question. Can the government legislate morality? Well, first aspects are murder and religion. The government should not legislate morality due to the fact that murder and religion are both subjective. Next, the government is ineffective in the act to do so. Laws that limit immoral conduct for the good of society are ineffective. Talking about peace. The use of force does not prevent unpleasant behaviors, but often leads to even more unintended actions towards the peace. An example would be the use of marijuana and alcohol. Individuals has not stopped applying drugs or using drugs in their lives. Instead, they have just changed the way they use them. Another example would be gun control. Harvard stats show that higher rates of anti-gun laws have caused higher murder rates than those countries with less strict gun control. So once again, there's no peace. Last comes social contract theory. Social contract theory states that the people give up their rights to the government in exchange for protection and other rights. The argument is the rights they are receiving should remain objective because not everyone agrees to certain rights due to subjectivity. Although social contract theory was based upon equal exchange of rights, today's society has changed and morality should not be concerned with those rights. So based on our facts and our statistics, therefore, we conclude, relating back to our question, we conclude that the government will not, should not, and cannot legislate morality.
That concludes our debate. Thank you. We have 7 minutes until the bell. I would love to hear, if you need to go somewhere, teachers and staff, please do so. If you were able to fill out a rubric, I'll take that from you. But our teams would love to hear any feedback that you have. And when you're finished with your feedback worksheets, I'll take them as well.
That we're not going to fail. This is why the government exists. The government lets us live in peace. The government's job is to protect us. It's written in the preamble. Now, the laws are a set of rules, as you may say, that keep us safe. Society conforms to a certain belief in order for all of us to be happy. And the morals, as you guys stated, morals do change. You are correct, and that's why the government has amendments. The Constitution has amendments. Of course, the 18th Amendment had prohibition, but the 21st Amendment brought it back because of the society's outrage towards it. Laws have moral beliefs. That's exactly why they're so important. Some believe that morals are just common sense. So why doesn't everyone have the same common sense? If you believe that the government should not legislate morality, what's stopping society into just becoming nothing? What's stopping people from killing other people? Because it's common sense to them that they can kill somebody. But in reality, it's not moral. We have standards so we don't live off of kill or be killed. We are not animals. We are civil human beings. We are intelligent. We are better than the animals who kill or be killed. That's how we rise to the top. We're humans. We have the government for a reason, to lead us. That's what the president's job is, as I stated earlier. We appoint the president. The government, which is the president, appoints our laws, and they pass them, along with the checks and balances. Now, the government, as I keep saying, is for the people, by the people. I can't stress that enough, because overall, the government is for us. So if the government won't legislate morality, who will? So the government can, does, and should legislate morality. Thank
you. All right, 5 minutes. Negative team. Time starts now.
Issuing morality laws is the way government keeps the world safe. But people who make the laws seem to base the laws on what they believe. Religion plays a big part because most of the laws are based on a Christian belief. Some believe that women should not have abortions, and others believe women should have the choice. The government issues morality for the common people, but justify it for themselves, which is a little selfish because they're people just like us commoners. But they work in the justice system. Murdering people is justified for the government, but is considered injustice for commoners to kill. Murder is murder, no matter how you put it. Murder is right, nor is it wrong, or is it moral or immoral.
Alright. Suppose our argument. Let's go back to the main question. Can the government legislate morality? Well, first aspects are murder and religion. The government should not legislate morality due to the fact that murder and religion are both subjective. Next, the government is ineffective in the act to do so. Laws that limit immoral conduct for the good of society are ineffective. Talking about peace, the use of force does not prevent unpleasant behaviors, but often leads to even more unintended actions. So where's the peace? An example would be the use of marijuana and alcohol. Individuals has not stopped applying drugs or using drugs in their lives. Instead, they have just changed the way they use them. Another example would be gun control. Harvard stats show that higher rates of anti-gun laws have caused higher murder rates than those countries with less strict gun control. So once again, there's no peace. Last comes social contract theory. Social contract theory states that the people give up their rights to the government in exchange for protection and other rights. The argument is the rights they are receiving should remain objective, because not everyone agrees to certain rights due to subjectivity. Although social contract theory was based upon equal exchange of rights, today's society has changed, and morality should not be concerned with those rights. So based on our facts and our statistics, therefore, we conclude, relating back to our question, we conclude that the government will not, should not, and cannot legislate morality.
That concludes our debate. Thank you. We have 7 minutes until the bell. I would love to hear, and if you need to go somewhere, teachers and staff, please do so. If you were able to fill out a rubric, I'll take that from you. But our teams would love to hear any feedback that you have. And when you're finished with your feedback worksheets, I'll take them as well.
That we're not going to fail. This is why the government exists. The government lets us live in peace. The government's job is to protect us. It's written in the preamble. Now, the laws are a set of rules, as you may say, that keep us safe. Society conforms to a certain belief in order for all of us to be happy. And the morals, as you guys stated, morals do change. You are correct, and that's why the government has amendments. The Constitution has amendments. Of course, the 18th Amendment had prohibition, but the 21st Amendment brought it back because of the society's outrage towards it. Laws have moral beliefs. That's exactly why they're so important. Some believe that morals are just common sense. So why doesn't everyone have the same common sense? If you believe that the government should not legislate morality, what's stopping society into just becoming nothing? What's stopping people from killing other people? Because it's common sense to them that they can kill somebody. But in reality, it's not moral. We have standards so we don't live off of kill or be killed. We are not animals. We are civil human beings. We are intelligent. We are better than the animals who kill or be killed. That's how we rise to the top. We're humans. We have the government for a reason, to lead us. That's what the president's job is, as I stated earlier. We appoint the president. The government, which is the president, appoints our laws, and they pass them, along with the checks and balances. Now, the government, as I keep saying, is for the people, by the people. I can't stress that enough, because overall, the government is for us. So if the government won't legislate morality, who will? So the government can, does, and should legislate morality. Thank you.
All right, 5 minutes. Negative team. Time starts now.
Issuing morality laws is the way government keeps the world safe. But people who make the laws seem to base the laws on what they believe. Religion plays a big part because most of the laws are based on a Christian belief. Some believe that women should not have abortions, and others believe women should have the choice. The government issues morality for the common people, but justify it for themselves, which is a little selfish because they're people just like us commoners. But they work in the justice system Murdering people is justified for the government, but is considered injustice for commoners to kill. Murder is murder, no matter how you put it. Murder is right, nor is it wrong, or is it moral or immoral.
Alright. Suppose our argument. Let's go back to the main question. Can the government legislate morality? Well, the first aspects are murder and religion. The government should not legislate morality due to the fact that murder and religion are both subjective. Next, the government is ineffective in the act to do so. Laws that limit immoral conduct for the good of society are ineffective. Talking about peace, the use of force does not prevent unpleasant behaviors, but often leads to even more unintended actions. So where's the peace? An example would be the use of marijuana and alcohol. Individuals has not stopped applying drugs or using drugs in their lives. Instead, they have just changed the way they use them. Another example would be gun control. Harvard stats show that higher rates of anti-gun laws have caused higher murder rates in those countries with less strict gun control. So once again, there's no peace. Last comes social contract theory. Social contract theory states that the people give up their rights to the government in exchange for protection and other rights. The argument is the rights they are receiving should remain objective because not everyone agrees to certain rights due to subjectivity. Although social contract theory was based upon equal exchange of rights, today's society has changed and morality should not be concerned with those rights. So based on our facts and our statistics, therefore, we conclude, relating back to our question, we conclude that the government will not, should not, and cannot legislate morality.
That concludes our debate. Thank you. We have 7 minutes until the bell. I would love to hear, and if you need to go somewhere, teachers and staff, please do so. If you were able to fill out a rubric, I'll take that from you. But our teams would love to hear any feedback that you have. And when you're finished with your feedback worksheets, I'll take them as well.